In a world full of superheroes, who's your favorite, Marcus?
You know what? As a kid growing up, when I was collecting comics and watching X-Men on TV, Nightcrawler was definitely my favorite from X-Men. Just like the teleportation and, the skill that guy had. Like,
Yeah, he was pretty slick.
Yeah, definitely from X2, like that opening scene when he's in the White House and he just like took everybody out. Like to this day, that scene from that movie still stands out to me. And, he was one of my favorites growing up for sure. But honestly, I think that it's shifted to more of a magical approach, man. I'm kind of into Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Yeah, like just like what he's capable of and like his whole world and how he brings in like things from other dimensions. And what stands out to me with him is that he's not afraid to use what his villains have used on him as a skill.
He's almost like a bit of an anti-hero in a way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. And yeah, I mean, he's still tight with like his morals and like what he's trying to accomplish, like for the greater good. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's, a master of the dark arts. You gotta,
Yeah.
Sometimes fight fire with fire, I think. So he's somebody who really stands out for me. What about you?
I mean, the 90s animated series of, X-Men, Wolverine, Gambit, those were probably
Oh, yeah.
my favorite too.
Yeah.
Both the attitude of Wolverine
Right.
and just the style of Gambit. I mean, I was big into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Same Raphael, same kind of Wolverine style attitude. I like that. And then the Spider-Man series, those were probably my favorite growing up. That kind of got me into comics and inspired into comics. And Spider-Man, I think, kind of took the cake in the long run, especially when that first movie came out.
For sure.
That really solidified my interest in film and comics and in comic book art, and is the one that actually inspired me to start collecting comics as well.
Yeah, nice. Well, speaking of, our next guest is someone who takes all of that influence from the comic world and represents it into his art.
If you feel like you can't do something just because you haven't seen it yet, then that probably means you should be the first. That just means that you should do it all the more.
All right, we have with us in the studio today comic writer Jared Bailey. Jared, thanks for being on the episode with us.
Welcome.
Hey, Marcus and Aaron, thank you both for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we want to hear about your start with comics and how you got interested in that.
I think like my first introduction was probably like, as far as like reading a comic book, was the funny pages in newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
Like
right.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
Love that. And then for like superheroes, it was probably like the Fox Kids in the 90s, like the X-Men and Spider-Man series,
Love
like
those
both
ones.
of those. So
Hell
fire.
yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
That was my childhood too.
Mhm. And also the 90s Batman was like pretty dark, but it would come on, I think, after nap time. Like, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one was pretty fire.
You're talking about the series, yeah? Not
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was gonna ask you who your favorite Batman is. Your favorite Batman version of the live action.
Ooh, and the live action. I was really feeling Robert Pattinson in the Batman.
The new one's cool, right?
Yeah, the new one's pretty fire.
Yeah.
I think his Bruce Wayne, I think they might be like working like a evolution of his portrayal of Bruce Wayne. But
Yeah.
like when he was in the Batman suit, he was with it.
That was cool.
I was
Yeah.
I was about that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, people had like mixed feelings about that, specifically, him tying in his his emotions, I guess, into like his character. But I thought it made sense. Like I thought it was
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, totally. And I know he has like that history from Twilight, so I think when they first announced him being Batman,
There
it
was some like mixed emotions from the fans.
definitely
Twilight Batman, all
right,
those, yeah.
right. The memes were definitely doing their thing for sure. But I think I saw him in this movie Good Time.
Yeah,
And
great film.
that really changed my perspective. Kind of made me excited to see like what he would bring to it. for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry, let's get back to your
Oh, yeah,
your
for sure.
comic upbringing. So yeah, I guess from there, from those inspirations, how did you turn it now into something that you're doing regularly?
Oh, so I think I first started like trying to make my own. Maybe like in 5th grade, I would just have like printer paper. And I love Spider-Man, so I would always just do like fan fictions, like after school or in between homework. Um, just yeah, just like drawing like bean body stick figures.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
like when the stories would be done, I would like give them 3 staples on the sides, and they'd be kind of like the Captain Underpants like fliporamas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it was, I just kind of kept doing that through like, yeah, from like 5th grade through middle school. At the time I was following Ultimate Spider-Man. It was like a reboot of like his origin. So he was in high school for like the whole time, and it was written by Brian Michael Bendis, and the artist was Mark Bagley. The art style was like, it was a really cool mix of like realistic, but it was still kind of cartoony. So it just like immediately like drew me in. The colors were like really flashy, and the story of like how they dove into like his thought process and like how he processed like the battles with the heroes and try to balance like his life as a high schooler was really like in depth, with like showing like how traumatic each experience was. And like I was just like, damn, like I would have given up. Like this is terrible for like any 15-year-old. There's like these people like trying to kill him all the time,
Right.
like people finding out who he is, like where he goes to school. Like this is awful. But it was such like I was really into that series. So I think following that is like waiting for each issue to come out. I think that was the first thing that like really like pulled me into like reading comics.
Okay. I wonder, is that the series that sparked the inspiration for the video game? Because I know that as the video game.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like, you know, the cell shading like art style in the
Yep,
video game, it
yep.
was like the same artist that did the book he also did the illustrations for the
Yeah.
video
Wasn't
game.
there also a brief animated series of Ultimate
Yes,
Spider-Man?
there was.
Yeah.
So that one was like, you know how the Green Goblin, he looked like a giant like demon dude.
Mhm.
That was like the same Green Goblin style. So that was also pretty like wild to see like how they did certain characters in this reboot. Like it was kind of like a retelling. So it was like, it was kind of the same as far as like who the characters were, but seeing like new fresh takes on them was also like pretty cool. So like when they would introduce a character for the first time, you would be like, oh, that's this version of the character. So it's like, I know now we have like the it's pretty like the multiverse like is like very like familiar with like exploring the possibilities of like stories that we love to see in like new ways. But I think that that version of like Ultimate Spider-Man was like the first time I really kind of like saw what that could possibly be like. And then when they introduced Miles Morales in that book, that like kind of like changed,
Just blew it apart.
So I definitely stand Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I know that game was pretty revolutionary too, because that, I guess, for me was the first one that I remember Spider-Man being able to like web sling directionally. Like you were in control of like which way you were and you could get creative with how you were swinging around buildings and things. And when you were back home in Queens, there wasn't much web slinging because the buildings are super low.
Right.
Like you had to get to Manhattan. Actually, it was like a trek that you had to do. And so, you know, huge leap from the first game, which was based on the Tobey Maguire, just the Spider-Man, right? He was just like web slinging to like clouds, right? It was just straight up into the air. And
that's kind of like the old, like the original comic book series too, on like TV series. You know, he's just like swinging into nothing.
Yeah. And I remember that just like blowing my mind. And you could also play as Venom too in that game.
Oh, that was so cool.
Man.
That was awesome. He could do like the far leaps and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
And he could throw cars. That was so cool.
Just like you just needed to eat people to gain health. Like that was it. He just absorbed them and just spit them back out. It was like I'm full health now.
That was fire.
Yeah.
I agree with like the web swinging too in that game. Like you could climb the web while you're swinging.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that the way they really added so much detail into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one went deep.
high replay value for sure.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So after, that was kind of the leap forward into, getting you connected and getting you surrounded by it. But when was the moment where you decided that you wanted to be a writer for this?
Ooh. Honestly, I think that when that first Tobey Maguire movie came out, seeing that in the theater for the first time, like the feeling of that experience was so like I think I could still remember it. I could still remember it was very it was very impactful,
Yeah.
life changing. And I just remember um seeing the cartoon on TV and seeing books on the page, and then the movie kind of brought all of the elements together, like the score, like that. I think that was the first time a movie's instrumental score I was super into. You could just see the web patterns, and then the Danny Elfman violins are going. It was that was epic. And I think I just that kind of got me into wanting to make films.
Okay.
So I just wanted to kind of make something that could possibly give that same kind of experience to someone else. If they were to go to the movie theater, it's what could I possibly make that would have someone be dang, that experience was so cool. So I think that movie.
Okay. That sparked it. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I kind of want to get into your business that you're working on right now, Geek Quality. Tell me about that, how that got started, and, how's everything going?
Oh, thanks. It's going. it's going. Yeah, so I started off with just writing. And I know we were just talking about Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And before that Miles Morales was introduced, I would dress up as Spider-Man, sometimes for Halloween, sometimes just on a given Friday.
Casual Friday.
Right. And I think I had this kind of jarring experience of wearing the mask to school one day. It was pretty multicultural school district, but there weren't too many black people going to the school, which and I think at that age in fifth grade, I knew what race was. I had some kind of I had some kind of understanding. But I just remember my first gatekeeping experience with one of the kids saying oh, you can't be Spider-Man, Spider-Man's white. And I was just well, I didn't even know how to respond to that.
Right.
But at the time I was still doing the flipporamas and stuff like that. And I think during summer vacation, I was just kind of going through there was a book I saw at the library where it was just it was kind of drawing steps or guides,
how to kind of drawing books. Yeah.
And the characters were I hadn't ever heard of them. I think they were just made up for the book. They were just kind of weird aliens and space soldiers and stuff like that. And so I was just more interested in these character designs, and was okay, what if I just kind of made my own superhero or my own kind of character. And the first character I came up with or the first character I started kind of writing for, it was this character who now I am working towards and introducing through Geek Quality. And that kind of became a side thing, where just a collection of short stories on Google Word documents and or Microsoft Word documents. Back then it wasn't really we didn't have Google Docs. It was Microsoft Word with the paperclip, dude. Yeah, we're just writing short stories either on the computer or on paper, and keeping them in notebooks and in folders, and just kind of taking that with me through high school. and playing certain video games like where you could like make your own like custom characters
Yeah.
would kind of like help with that, like
with like developing your stories.
yeah,
Mhm.
like because some of them like were like Guitar Hero, honestly. Like
Okay.
honestly, like you could make your own like rocker,
Yeah.
and like you could like choose the colors of um like their clothes or like their outfits, like what articles of like clothing they would have. There was like an online multiplayer for like a lot of the Halos, like where you could do your own Spartan,
Yeah.
was like pretty big. I got really
Halo
carried
3.
away with
Yeah.
that,
Halo 3 blew that up.
bro. It was
Yeah.
so dope.
I never really played any of the Halo games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't on Xbox.
It's not too
Oh,
late.
okay,
Yeah.
right, true,
Yeah.
Not too late, dude.
true.
The
Yeah,
customization factors were incredible,
they really
especially
were.
between like Spartan and Elite. Like
Oh, yeah, elites were like, at least they got pretty
you can
pretty
get,
creative with
yeah,
those.
yeah.
Hmm.
You can make some cool characters there.
Yeah. Also too, I think Mass Effect 3,
All right,
they finally added like a multiplayer to that, like that third game.
that one I missed.
Yeah, that one, it wasn't, it was very like RPG heavy.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the first one was a little like slow with the like the play mechanics, but I was really into the story. And I think that game where it was like you could kind of transfer your save files over like from one game to the next, um, was a big, like, I guess like inspiration for like how I could think about like writing stories for like these stories. Um, yeah, but I think, yeah, now I'm just kind of rambling and
No, dude.
but yeah.
Yeah, that inspiration. Okay. Well, I kind of want to talk about like what do you think draws so many people, because it's not just you, like, to Spider-Man's character. You know, what do you think it is? What is it for you, and what do you think it is for like others that, that's a lot of people's favorite
Hmm.
hero.
Like worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Honestly, I think I think he's just like really accessible and relatable across like all ages. I think there's something that, and like a lot of people can relate to, as far as like the focus on him like trying to balance his lifestyles. Like if Spider-Man's doing really well, Peter Parker's probably failing, and then vice versa. Like if Peter Parker is like, really on his game, Spider-Man's probably like not doing so hot in the newspapers.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
I think that balance of like trying to do the best you can for yourself, like for your life, but also to like how you can help your neighbor, like be the best person you can like to your community, and like like trying to find that balance, I think like kind of speaks to like a lot of us, like a lot of people.
I didn't think about that aspect. I mean, like your community and your, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, obviously he's out there saving people, but yeah, I didn't think about like that connection.
It's
That
more connected to like human stories, I think, in
Mhm.
some ways too.
Yeah.
So you were making these comics kind of growing up for yourself, I'm assuming, or were you sharing them more amongst your peers and stuff too?
Yeah, I was like like some friends who would like sit next to me like at mostly like during middle school, if they would saw that I was like drawing and like putting lines to separate the panels and stuff, they would kind of see and be like, or some, not all, but like some would be like, oh,
Get
like,
curious.
yeah, they would get curious and be like, oh, like, what is that? And then I would always carry like a folder that kind of kept growing, and it kind of, I was kind of embarrassed, so I would kind of be like, oh, it's nothing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
nothing. But some friends would, yeah, they would be interested in like reading them. They thought they were like funny, or like, like they were entertained by it.
Mm-hmm.
So it got to a point where they were like kind of asking like, when, like, where's the next one, like what's gonna happen in the next one, or if the next one was finished yet. I had, yeah, gotten, I never like fully finished the series. I got like, I had planned on stopping at number 50, and I think I hit like 43, 40 or 42.
Okay.
But that was when I was more so like focusing on like I think like kind of like transcript format.
Mm.
So I kind of stopped doing like the comic pages
The
and
visuals.
the visuals and drawing, and was more like on the Microsoft Word documents, or just like writing on notebook paper, for like some more like Marvel fan fiction, or just like different short stories, but more like I think I put a little bit more focus on my personal like character stories.
Okay. And with the
Gotcha.
project you're working on right now, is part of that about bringing those stories now to life, or what is the goal with the project?
Yeah, it is. It is definitely like starting to like bring those like notes, and like going through them. I'm just like, guys, these these are terrible. Like, but uh, yeah, I think I started really getting into the idea of like kind of bringing like seeing what that could look like turning them back into comics during COVID. Um, as far as like actually putting them out there as like a like this what like kind of like what we're going for now, um like my really good friend, my best friend, Kevin, who I met in I think our junior year of high school. And it's funny because like we didn't start to like really hit it off until like maybe a few weeks before graduating.
Okay.
And then we realized like we both lived like down the street from each other. So like we went to school in Torrance, but then we both lived in Gardena. So I think that like similar like neighborhood upbringing was kind of like what would like draw us towards each other. And then we would just like hang out like every day during the summer after graduating, and then we both went to El Camino College. So we were spending a lot of time together with like our mutual friends, and we ended up finding out that we're both writing like superhero stories. So then we were just like, oh, we should team up sometime. And then
Superhero team up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
awesome.
that's kind of like how it just be kind of like started saying like, well, these are things going on in your story. These are the things going on in my story. Like what would like this what would the background of this world be for like these two like worlds to exist, like, and that's kind of how the world building started to like merge into like where we're heading now.
Gotcha. So tell me about your process from start to finish. Like, what's your writing process like? Do you have like some tools or techniques that you use to produce?
Oh yeah, always like I think I would go back to the inspiration. Like everything everything and anything can be inspiration. Like books, movies, music, shows, games, and also too just like day-to-day life experience can be inspiration. And just like having like a note, like a notepad on like on your phone, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, this would be like cool for this like kind of idea, and then
Mhm.
like I'll forget it. And so
Yeah, yeah.
just like taking some time to like write down the note in like your phone, um and yeah, um outlines, lots, like I do like a lot of outlining, and sometimes they're not very like um
Like detailed.
or linear. Like it could just be kind of like random bullet points, and like just hoping that they'll make sense later. Like when you go back to them, some things will stick, some things won't. um and just kind of like, if it like, if it came up, especially like more than once, even if it's not exactly the same as it like came up before, it's probably something.
Right.
So just, yeah, just um like always like taking down notes, because they like, and seeing like what they can turn into later.
Okay.
When you're creating these outlines and these comic book stories, are you thinking about kind of like a bigger universe, a bigger story, or are you kind of going like short story to short story with your characters?
Ooh, sometimes both. Like sometimes it'll just be like a world building aspect, where it's like, would this be a law in the world, or is this like something for like a specific character? Where would the character like show up? What is this like like a, or even like a trait, or like a costume idea, or like a location, um and or even like an idea for a short story, or like and if like, I think sometimes like uh the tug and pull of like wanting everything to exist in like a shared universe is like, some ideas just really sound good as like its own standalone thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think like having that collaborative discussion, like with like co-writers and like with friends, just kind of like help, where like kind of help like narrow down and like focus on like where things might fit. And then if we come to a consensus where we're both not sure, or like we're not sure, just keeping the note, and maybe it'll like come up later when we have like time to focus on it, or the time will present itself for the idea to like come up.
gotcha. Okay, so you sort of like lean on that collaboration aspect, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're okay. Have you had a situation where, where I guess you've been stuck, like writing on your own, and then like reaching out to somebody kind of like help that process?
Yeah, definitely. Um, where it's like, because it's never like, well, no, I don't want to say never, but it's usually not out of like not knowing where things will go. It's usually like, okay, we're at this point now, and there's like there's four different paths, and
Yeah.
I don't know like I don't
Which one
know,
they should
yeah,
take? Yeah.
which one to go down. So just like presenting each of them, and now like our friend Trevor, he's like working on his own project in the world, and we've known him for a really long time. And he was like he was one of my friends in like middle school and high school, who would be down to like read my horrible fan fiction.
Okay.
So and like he's very open, but he's also very like precise with his discernment.
Okay.
So he's like, I guess like the way he kind of like thinks about the different options is like, this would be more suited for like, if this is the message that you're going for, this is more suited for like, if this is like the idea. Like, so I think like us kind of like having like that checks and balances with each other, because like Kevin will like do the same thing with us, and like Trevor will like kind of ask like for advice on like something that he's working on.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helps a lot with deciding on where to take it next, because it like, especially like when you're getting ready to like make something that's gonna be like printed, or like colored, or finished, because then it kind of makes it like finite in a
Yeah.
way.
Uh-huh.
So that can be a little nerve-wracking, because it's like, I don't know if this is like the like the right like option. But what I've started to realize is there's also too like a kind of freedom in like letting that kind of build on something else, where it's like you might take that one path, and then like the three other options could show up like in another way, or like
Right.
in another form that you may have not like originally thought of.
Yeah. So you never get rid of anything.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wait, that's clever.
The process of putting out a comic book, obviously there's a lot involved with the story, the art, making it engaging. What is it like trying to put that out and find an audience with it?
Ooh. I like, so that's, I think that's the process that's still the newest,
Mhm.
the newest to me, as far as like putting out like a finished work. Uh um I think that is, yeah, I'm sorry, you said like, what's the process to like getting it?
Yeah, I mean, you're developing, your own stories.
Mhm.
What is it like trying to try to produce that and get it in front of an audience.
Right. Okay. So that I think like opens up a new spectrum of like collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
because I specifically like focus on like the writing, so finding like the right artist to match the visuals of the story that I'm going for, like that someone that can capture like the tone um of the characters, like how they express themselves, like what their designs are, what the locations look like. I think the most like conversation you have with your artist is like you'll come out with the most outcome that you're both happy with. And I think that is honestly, like you get a lot of happy accidents with that too, like because then they'll add in something
That you didn't think of.
yeah, and it's like I think that's kind of like the coolest, like one of the, like if not the coolest part of it, where it's just like now it's something else, like it's something, it's still like, you know, it's still the idea, it's still like the concept, it's still the script, but now it just kind of feels a little bit more alive, like because now you're seeing it a perspective because that you're not super familiar with, but you trust at the same time. So it's like now they're pouring their ideas into it, and I learned that with two artists, well three so far, like Winston Gambro. He did like the first comic book issue that we released in Fables of Reclamation #1, just with how he like would do some of the angles. And I think that was pretty difficult with learning how to uh, do the script for like character positions and blocking. And he would kind of give a little bit of feedback where it's like, I don't, you know, I don't understand like what the focus point is here, like what if we do it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he would kind of show me like a stick figure sketch, and it's like, yo, that's like perfect. Like I like, yeah, it's that's perfect. And Ashley Mortensen, she was the artist on the second issue, and collaborating with her was very fun because she would also she would ask a lot of like specific detailed based questions on just like characters looks. Like I would give reference, like I always try to give as many references as possible, and then like just kind of let them like bring it all together. And she was very specific with like kind of, I think she had her own process of like having different paths to go down, and then she would kind of like ask for feedback on like which path was the preferred one. So there would be pages she would send back where like she would add a character in the background who I'm like, yo, that's fire. Like I didn't even know that. Like I would tell her like, this is so cool. And it would add so much to like a character. I think like in the second issue there's these hill giants, and she would like one of the characters, because they're all like covered in moss and grass and stuff.
Yeah.
And she added like a little bird on this dude's shoulder, and I'm like, the bird could be a character, like that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So just I get really excited seeing like what the artist like will add to it. I'm the artist I'm working with right now for #3, Nicholas Garza. He like it's a similar experience. Is like they're all pleasures to work with, and I think like having that established like connection of understanding with each other before like diving into the project, and like having your expectations like expressed and having their expectations expressed, and like moving forward together on the project. It's it kind of it's in, like that, like I think that is in itself is like an it's an inspiring experience.
Yeah.
And as far as finding an audience, so far we've done signings in a few local shops in the South Bay, specifically at the Comic Bug in Manhattan Beach. And we're always honored and grateful to like show our like to have our work there.
Mm-hmm.
They're super kind, super welcoming. Of course, I have to shout out Black Star Collectibles, which was a shop that opened up during COVID in the Carson Mall. And I was like, you know, in quarantine and stuff, like you can't really do anything. So I was just kind of like when I was first starting like the process of um making this first book, I was on a lot of Facebook networking pages, like just like talking to different artists. And there was like a lot of blurred pages where people were just like looking to connect on like similar like shared interests. And the owner, Fionn Cooper, he was posting like a concept image of like what he wanted his store to look like, and he was saying like, hey, like my name's Fionn, like me and my business partner Kareem, like we're trying to open up like a black owned like comic book store. And for reasons of like I always felt safe in comic book stores. You know, just like for like I think that's one thing like a lot of people always look to like when they go to a comic book store is just like that, like the safety of like community.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like the like the geek and nerd community can be a little toxic. Well, not a little, they can be like pretty like
All right,
they
yeah.
can be pretty toxic. But in the like when you're in the shop, everyone has there's something there for everyone. So you don't have to you know, every like I think like having that commonality in mind like when you're there is something that's always kind of like relieving.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was I had never before that I had never heard of like a black owned like comic book store. So I was just kind of excited about like the idea itself like existing like not too far from my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yo, like, okay. So I hit him up immediately. I was like, thanks for even like thinking of this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is like super cool. And when we were ready to like release our like we came out with the preview guide, like Kevin and I, in like February 2021, just with a few pages of like a few of the different series that we want to like work on and present for the years down the line. So it was like some of my characters, some of his stories together in like a preview magazine. And Fionn was like, yeah, like if you get it printed, we'll like have a day for you. Come by, like you'll like have a table, you can like if you have any like merch you want to sell, like yeah, pull up.
That's awesome.
We were like, right, I was like,
Yeah.
we were super I think that kind of like lit the fire for us to like keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And the turnout there was like because we were like trying our best to like let people know in the
Yeah.
days coming up. And I think our biggest takeaway was the people that we had no idea on like how to reach them, but just like having the work on the table and seeing who would like pull up, like just because it caught their eye, was kind of like I don't yeah, it was very I think motivating. And just like having conversations with them, and them telling us that it inspired them, like they have their own notebooks like under their beds that they haven't like dusted off in years.
Right.
And like kids who were starting to like write their own stories, and like who came in with their parents. And I think like that was for both of us, where we were just kind of like, okay, like we're gonna do this, like we're
That's
in it.
awesome. Cool,
Thanks.
man.
I know you said Ultimate Spider-Man, that style of animation when it came out
Mhm.
was cool, and you found it inspiring. When you are writing your stories and kind of visualizing characters in your mind, do you have a specific kind of animation style or look?
Ooh. Yeah, honestly, depending on the story.
Yeah.
And the genre of the story. I think the first two uh issues that are that we've been able to finish so far, it was kind of like an experiment with different styles.
Okay.
So like the first and also too, like when you're when you're searching for artists, I think knowing like your budget is um really important. So like artists will have like their page rate, and there's certain levels of there's levels of like service that like you're like looking to get completed.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's the penciling and inking, which is kind of like um adding inks to like the pencil drawing, so it kind of has that like black and white finish.
Sure.
And then coloring, which kind of like they have like different like stages in like processing like the colors to like add the shadows, add the vibrancy, and add the like the flat like the primary colors. So some artists will do all of it. Some artists only will do like penciling and inking, and then some artists will only do like coloring. So like having your budget set in mind for like how much you want to spend on the project, because like some will charge for like all in house, like they do all the services, but that price might end up being like the same as one who like focuses specifically on like penciling and inking. So having that budget in mind, and then going forward with what kind of style you want to like go for on the book, and like yeah, like it, like how you said when you would read comics, and like you could see, like you could like kind of tell what the story is just by like seeing the images.
Yeah,
that was another thing that I like the artist Mark Bagley. I really like about his style, where he definitely tells a story with the framing of his like pages, and like how he positions the characters, and like what he chooses to focus on. Like some like, and at first it was a little like, I like in most movies that you don't really see a lot of the same positioning, where it's like only like a piece of the nose and a piece of the eye. But the way I don't know, like the way he would kind of do that, like you could tell like they're focusing that close in on the character, like for a specific reason, and it kind of makes sense like when you look at the full page. So yeah, to go back to like to your question about like choosing a specific style for the books. I was when I was writing the story for the first comic, it's pretty much just like a long fight scene.
gotcha.
And I like that, like was a little nervous about it just being kind of like long, and like a long fight scene with no like not much like story behind it, like because you never know how it's gonna like present to like an outside like perspective.
Right.
But I definitely was pulling from like 80s animation, like
Okay.
like Thundercats or like Transformers,
Hmm.
where it was kind of like leaning into like a like I guess like classic, or like kind of like Silver Age, or like like Silver Age is like like early, like mid 60s to like
Yep.
early 70s style like comic books.
Mhm.
And it's I was like, it's but that like it is a little like cheesy, it's a little corny, but that was kind of like the style of like the fight scene that I wanted to go for.
Like the wham, pow.
Yeah, yeah. That was like I was
Classic.
that's why, right, it's very classic. That's what I wanted to kind of go for. And then when I was on Facebook and going down those networking pages for like artists looking for work, or writers looking for artists, and vice versa, like a lot of artists will just like post like samples of things that they've drawn. And I came across Winston, and I loved how he can kind of like add a lot of he can add a lot of drama to something that looks classic, and I really I really like that. I kind of asked him if he was interested in doing like a medieval fantasy kind of story. He said he was about it. And we just like for that preview guide that we were coming out with, we started off with just doing like 2 pages that were in the middle of the book. And when he like sent them back in, they were like, I didn't know that like that's what I wanted until I saw it. And
Sure.
and yeah, with Ashley, um that story, it was like a little bit more violent, but it was also, I think I was trying to at least go for something a little bit more reflective in like emotional depth from the characters. Despite it also like having like a lot of like action, I like was trying to like narrow down, like, or not narrow down, but I guess like focus a little bit more on like character motivation.
Okay.
And she kind of like, her art style was, when I first saw it, it was very like and her colors are amazing. Like
Yeah.
she does that. I think they both do it all in, like Winston did the colors, the inking and the pencils, and then Ashley, she did her own, she did all of hers as well. And hers kind of looked more like like a cross between like a fairy tale and an anime,
Okay.
like kind of pastel.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and the things that she would focus on for the framing of her characters, like you could like she put a lot of time in like doing the characters like facial expressions,
Yeah.
and like translating their emotions in the scene. And then the fight scenes were pretty visceral. um so I think that I kind of pitched the idea to her, and she was into it. um and with her, she was detailed about just wanting to start doing like character designs for each of the characters first. So the first round of characters we worked on, I just like sent her references on, this is like who the character is, this is like how tall they are, this is what they would look like, this is like the actor I would imagine playing them in like live action. And she like kind of took all of that. And the first time back, she was like, because these characters, some of like one is a Viking.
Okay.
So it's still like a fantasy, so it's like a lot of magic and stuff. But I had just seen the Northman.
Yeah.
That like that
I like
is
that movie.
crazy.
Marcus, you told me, you're the one who told me about
Did
that
you
one.
watch it?
I did, yeah.
Bro.
I did, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And like honestly, like just kind of like jaw dropping, like just seeing how like the cinematography
Mm-hmm.
of that village raid. I was like, yeah, and like, bruh, and
Crazy.
the volcano fight
Felt
too.
like you were there.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the detail in like their wardrobe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really cool. So she like paused the project really quick, and she was like, yo, are we leaning more into fantasy, or are we leaning into like historical accuracy?
Hmm.
And I had never thought about that. I was like, that's a great question. And then like the Northman was just coming out, so it was like um trailers kept like, I kept scrolling past like the scene where he like catches the spear and like throws it back.
Yeah,
And I was
dude.
and
Shit was crazy.
it was pretty wild. And she expressed that like she was excited about seeing that too. So I think we went for like 65% historical accuracy and like 35% fantasy. So then she kind of like sent back a few character like we like I think that was the most detailed in like character designs that I've yet like collaborated on, because they're like she would send shoot like we would like we went through a few different drafts for each of the Viking characters, and yeah I was very excited with how like they came out, um and like matching that with like how she does her visuals, it like it felt right, like it felt like okay, I'm really excited about this project too in like a different way than I was from the first one, but I still love like Winston's work and how he did the first one. So I think establishing that like connection with the artist, and then you guys coming to like a common ground on um what the visual style you want to go for. um and also too, what really helps is like when you're writing the pages, like you break them down with by panel description.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes you could like see it as like shots in movies where it's like this is going to be kind of like a medium shot, or like you want to like do a close up
It's
here.
developed almost more like a screenplay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
When you're like, yeah, I think for whichever like individual like project you're working on, when you're thinking of like the things that are inspiring you about like the project overall, or like for that specific like issue, um like you could always refer back to those things, and like the things that you liked about those projects, and see like, because I really like genre mixing, so
Yeah.
like trying to see how you can pull everything together.
Nice. So you mentioned earlier, there being in the comic community some toxicity, and you had that story of that kid when you were growing up who made that judgment about you
Oh
can't be Spider-Man. you know what advice would you say that you have for young creators, young writers, young artists who might be going through some like similar like obstacles like that? Like, how do they push past those things?
Like I would definitely say, if you feel like you can't do something just because you haven't seen it yet, then that probably means you should be the first. Like that just means that you should do it all the more, because that might like that might blow someone's mind who wish they always had seen it. Like yeah, I would say like if you thought it, you could and probably should do it.
All
Like
right.
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, what are you working on lately? What are some projects that you're looking forward to?
I'm definitely excited for how Kevin's project Mortal Man is developing.
Nice.
I'm very excited for that. I'm working on like the third chapter to Fables of Reclamation. And after that, I think I will like be going into some other projects that we want to put out. But as far as like for Geek Quality as a whole, I think seeing how Mortal Man is shaping up is something I'm really excited about. I think it's a story that everyone like should see, and just like kind of answering like your question from earlier about like seeing like if it hasn't been done before, like that means you should do it all the more. I think like there's such a lack of like Latino and Mexican superheroes. So I think that um Kevin's working very hard to create like a new form of accessibility and representation. And uh it's so it's so unique, and it's so culturally inclusive without like trying to be ham-fisted about it. It's
Right.
just like it just is like,
Uh-huh.
and I'm very excited about the book, or the project, because I think it could be. I think it could be a comic. It could be like a graphic novel. I could see it as like an animated series. Like it could be so many things.
Nice.
It's about a he's like an ex-convict, coming like up, like who ends up finding, like he gets out, and starts to start a new path for himself. Ends up finding out that his dad used to be a superhero back in the day, and then gets embroiled into this world that we're building in the present day. So I'm excited about that aspect as well, of the book being like in the present day, and just seeing yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see how we like present like a story like that.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, where can everybody go to find your art? How can we follow you? See what's going on?
Oh, so we are at geekquality.com online, and our Instagram handle is at geekqualitycomics, with an X instead of a CS.
Nice.
So when are we all going to Comic-Con?
Hey, right?
I haven't been yet. That's still on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely think everyone should go at least once in their lifetime to any Comic-Con. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And like kind of like how there's something for everyone, like in a comic shop. Like it's basically like that at a Comic-Con. It like you don't even have to be into anything specific. Like there's just so many cool things there to like. It's like a fun weekend outing.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, we're really excited about the new stuff that you got going on. We can't wait to read and can't wait to see it.
Oh, appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jared, for being on the episode with us, man.
Thank you guys so much for having me.